Hey guys, it's been a while. It's been the holidays. Everybody's busy. I'm sure you are too. I hope Christmas, New Year's was good for you. And I was watching my friend Dan's another YouTuber new series about his thoughts on travel.
So today I'm going to look at a comment from a good friend of mine, Elizabeth Travels. I actually met Elizabeth when I was in Saigon in Vietnam, along with her boyfriend. We all had a beer and shared some stories, so that was a great time.
And I decided I think it's time to resurrect my little travel stories series since I'm not traveling very much lately. So let's just get right into it. That was 2 years ago. And I was going to my exchange semester in Warsaw. And I was looking at tickets from Montreal to Warsaw, and they're all pretty expensive. And I found this really, really cheap flight to Vilnius in Lithuania. Like, completely random country. And I googled it and I looked around and I saw that the bus tickets and train tickets were relatively cheap. So that's how in the middle of February I'm alone and I fly into Vilnius. It's cold, it's snowy, it's this weird country, like this minuscule little city. Everybody speaks Lithuanian, which is unlike any other language I've heard before. And if you don't know where Lithuania is, it's in the Baltics, which is the northern part of Europe. Not as north as like Finland and stuff, but it's still pretty cold and it's February. So it's far from the tourist season. I check into my hostel and I swear in the whole hostel we're literally 4 people. I was sitting there thinking, what did I get myself into? I could have just flown into Warsaw and started my thing, but I decided to be adventurous and show up in this strange city without any valid reason. I've never even heard anything about Vilnius before. I had absolutely no expectations about this city. And I mean, we had a fun time in the hostel. When you're 4 people, you kind of make friends with all those strangers. And the people that were in the hostel were there also for like some strange reasons. 2 of the girls there were actually from Belarus. And they told me this strange story about how their school, their university, actually got banned from their country. So the university moved to Lithuania and they were doing their degree remotely and just going to Lithuania to pass their exams. I found a news article about it. It now shares its campus with a local college in the north of Vilnius. The president, Lukashenko, took personal responsibility for closing the EHU. He argued that it was too pro-Western. We don't need that sort of university. So there's like those 2 Belarusian girls. And there's also this guy from America, but he had some roots from Kazakhstan or something. And he made this cheese little like dough bread kind of cake. And it was all a good time. It was fun. So there I was just hanging out in the hostel. And this one day I'm walking around and I noticed this strange building. It looks like this Greek classical white Colosseum kind of thing, really fairly standard. But the weird thing, it has this huge metal hook coming out of it, just like randomly out of nowhere. And it just seems like a strange building. And I started asking around like the locals, the guy working at the hostel, and I was hearing like, what is this place? And he says, oh, it's a concert venue. They have events sometimes. So I'm there in the hostel trying to convince everybody to go with me there, check it out in the evening. And well, the girls are like, no, we have to study for my exam. The guy, I don't know why, he's not very interested. But I decide, you know what? I'm just gonna go alone. I have to mention that Vilnius is this very small city. It's 500,000 of population, but it's the biggest in the country. It's the capital. But it has this artistic vibe that is also very surprising. Over there's this little neighborhood called Užupis, which declared its independence from the country, and is this like little artist neighborhood. And when I was walking around, there's like sometimes just Hare Krishna people just singing, clapping the Hare Krishna songs. And I was feeling like I was in this village alone, but also surrounded by all this creativity. So I couldn't just stay in my hostel, and I set my mind on going to this place without knowing anything about what it actually is. But I ended up in one of the weirdest parties I've ever been in my life. I walk in this place and the music that is playing is just unlike anything I've ever heard before. I can't even describe it, honestly. So I'm standing there alone. I think I was the only foreigner in this whole place. And there's quite a bit of people. I think there was like about 100 people there, at least. And I'm standing at the bar just drinking a beer and thinking, what did I walk into? Because the music keeps playing and the artists keep changing. And with every person it gets weirder and weirder. I meet this girl who speaks English, and she tells me she's an editor for this online art magazine, and we get talking for a while, and it was really fun. And she explains me where I am and what is this event that I'm in. And she says it's this noise music festival. Before that point, I've never heard about noise music before in my life. But suddenly it makes so much sense, because that's pretty much the only word I could describe the music that I was listening to. It was noise. It was so strange. All the artists had like some weird contraptions and weird mixers and sound effects and pedals. So the party goes on, and I talked to some other people. I was talking to this guy who was trying to convince me that pole and ball comics were the funniest thing invented in the world. It was weird, but I was having fun. And then this guy comes on stage, and you can see that like he's the headliner of the show. Everybody's like super excited to see him. Everybody just gathers up in front, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be good. This is something interesting coming up. So like this bald guy comes onto the stage, and he starts singing this song about like a boy that's into cranes, and he really likes cranes and watching cranes out of his window. And I was just listening to this, like, what is this weird song? And everybody's just fascinated. And the song gets more and more and more intense, and everybody's more and more into it. Until like at the culmination point, he just takes the microphone he's been singing into, and he starts bashing his forehead with the microphone until he starts bleeding from the forehead, and then everybody cheers. And that was it.
He wanted to become a train driver!
Yeah, and I was there standing, thinking maybe I should have stayed in the hostel.
Looking out of his window all day long. He was watching the cranes. He was watching the cranes.
It's probably one of the most memorable nights I had. I was alone, and every decision that led me up to that point where I was standing there in this crowd of people, watching a guy bashing his forehead with a microphone and bleeding, it was all my decision. I was the one who decided to come to Vilnius. I was the one who decided to inquire about this weird building I saw, just out of sheer curiosity. And then I decided to go for it, even though nobody in the hostel wanted to join me, and to still go and see what was up. At any point in time, I could have done something else. I could have stayed home, and I wouldn't have had this weird story to tell, this weird, memorable adventure. And that's what I really liked about Vilnius. It's the city that stayed memorable for me, because there were so many of those little moments like that where you could see this creativity and the weirdness of the town shine through, and it was exhilarating. I loved it. And strangely, or perhaps maybe not strangely, this was not the last time I ended up in a weird place, in a weird party, somehow during my travels. I like going with the flow when I travel and doing things like that. Anyway, thanks for listening to this. And I'll try to make more of those stories videos. I'll think of some more strange situations I ended up in, and I'll tell you more. I was also thinking of making this an ongoing series with maybe other people joining in and telling travel stories that are not me. What would you think about that? Would you like to hear Alex's story about how he ended up in Transnistria? That's a weird one, but I'm happy I wasn't there to experience it with him. Thanks for watching.